Welcome back to Market It with Atmo, where we give you the tips, tools, and strategies to help your business be successful. Today, we have on the show CEO and founder of WTV Consulting, Ms. Tye Threats. It's nice to see you again, Tye.
Likewise. It always feels like home coming to visit here.
I love it. I love it. It's very cozy when you're around. So
it is.
It is. I love it. So can you start off by telling us kind of what your background is and what you're doing now, how you came into WTV Consulting and starting your own business?
Absolutely. So I always say I grew up in corporate. I did start when I was 2 years old and somehow ended up staying there for almost 23 years. I always say that what kept me there is I loved every single thing about business, no kidding. And I always feel like that was the best on-the-job training I did not know to ask for. So imagine being able to have that much experience while you're going through earning your degree, but getting a chance to test things hands-on and just continuously grow and promote. And so everywhere I went, every company that I worked in was always larger Fortune 500 companies. Didn't plan on that either, but again, it was just part of the bigger plan overall. As I kind of spent my time there, I progressed the ranks, like I said, to senior leadership, had an opportunity to, I will say, dip my toe into quite a few areas in business to really learn not only what parts I love the most, but I think it's really important to understand the other areas that are impacted by the areas in which you serve in. And so for me, I think some years in, I don't know how many years it was, just started getting to a point where everyone was clear on what they needed me for, but they could not find a title. So it was just kind of like, you're going to stand up this team, build this and do that, but we don't know what to call you. So it was just always something, right?
Right.
And so what I learned after a while is that I was operating as a mini consultant inside other companies. And so I realized I'm very good at identifying a problem. So it could be a problem or a forward-thinking strategy in which a company should be taking, but I'm very good at bringing clarity to chaos. And so I'm a strong communicator. So I was always good at saying, hey guys, I think this is what we should be doing and this is how we can do it, and being able to kind of gather everyone around that and move things forward. And so once I would finish doing that, because I worked in large enterprises, I would just build a team and move on and go do something in another enterprise. So
being able to build a team is hard in itself, but to get them to see your perspective and move forward with it, it's even, you have to be a special kind of person for that.
I agree. And you know what? When you see the special talents that people bring, right? So it's like I may have the insight that, hey, we need this, but when you find the right person and you put them in that role, it really takes it to a different level. And so it's just always been an amazing journey. And I think I knew that I was going to self-retire, which is where I am now, right? So I am not old enough to retire yet, but just kind of self-retire and focus on building a consulting firm and team that is able to support multiple businesses that may not necessarily want the traditional large company consulting teams. And maybe it's the price point that they don't want, or maybe they're really looking for what I call battle-tested CEOs that have rolled up their sleeves and worked in those particular roles to really help lead their now problems, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I've been doing for 2 years now. It'll be 3 years.
Wow.
And it's insane to think about it, but
congratulations.
Yeah, so that's how I got here.
My goodness. I'm sure there's a lot more to each and every portion of that story.
Yes.
But can you take us back a little on your background? Would you say your early experiences in life influenced your approach to business today?
Yes, it has. What I've learned to be is always married to the end result and flexible to every single thing that happens in between, right? Because everything changes, especially technology. Outside of technology, anything can make something in business change. And I really think the most successful businesses I've seen were those that were most adaptable. And so being in companies and organizations that we're not going to stop doing what it is that we set out to do just because something is thrown in between, right? And so we always understood what the outcome of it is that we needed, but was very flexible, on how we arrived there. So I thought that that's always been something that stood out to me.
I love that. So can you share how your love for business evolved into the creation of your consulting firm?
Yeah, so I guess I was getting a dual doctorate's degree, right? So
And everything.
and everything, right? I'm like, I'm going to learn here, and then I'm going to do this. You know what? I think the purest form of just knowing what a person is meant to do is paying attention to what they do when they're very young, right? And so growing up, everyone's like, hey, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this, I want to do that. I kid you not, ask anyone in my family. It's like she always had a desk, several staples. She was writing something down, telling people what to do. We don't know what the business was called, but she was really leading the business, right? And so later on, like, I'm just like, what it was that I loved most was organizing, problem solving, and communicating, right? And we won't talk about how my name was always in the conduct book for talking, but that's not the point. But I think for me, I also came from a family of entrepreneurs that always had great ideas on what they wanted to do. And for somehow, my brain was always just like, this is how. I was always the how. Whatever your idea was, I'm like, this is the how. This is how we're going to do it. And I would help get them there. And I wanted to understand more, what is it that I know that's helping me get them there? And I think that that's where that hands-on training in corporate came from, as well as that education knowledge behind it really fueled it for me.
Yeah, and then initiative to learn all those different things. A lot of people are very narrow focused, and so you gave yourself the ability to learn and see things in other people, right?
Very true, very true.
That's hard. A lot of people set goals and where they want to be, but have no idea how to get through it all, to the process. And so you help businesses with that, right? Yeah. And your clientele, it's not only in Texas or the U.S., you're also national.
Absolutely. So we are across all 50 states and international. And it's funny, I was having this conversation with someone the other day when they was like, you don't mind traveling here, do you? And I'm like, no, my entire career was like that. So before COVID came and really bridged the gap of it not seeming so weird, we were always everywhere. Every company I worked for, it was just, you never only did business where you were. And so I am grateful for that, because I do think a lot of business owners, now, if you are a local business and a staple in the community, we need you there, right? But if you have a business that's flexible enough to expand your clientele across state lines and even international, that really is helpful for growth. And so for me, I am grateful that I didn't wait to learn that. I just kind of cheated. I knew that.
No, you set yourself up for everywhere you go in your path, right? So would you say that's the most rewarding part of having such a diverse clientele?
Absolutely. It is so exciting. As a matter of fact, I think my family and team gets excited when it's like, oh, I have a client here, we may have to travel there, and everyone's like, well, if you go, can I go with you? Or you have consultants fighting to be on certain contracts because it may require an on-site visit, and they're like, hey, I haven't been to Colorado, or I want to go to Wisconsin, right? So I think that that's exciting too, because not only are you expanding who you can reach and who you can help, but again, it's always nice when it comes with, a nice little trip.
Of course. And to be able to give that to your staff is probably really rewarding for you.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. So navigating from being the sole business owner to creating a team around you and still being the business owner, how did you navigate through all that?
I'm still navigating through that. So,
I'm too.
That is so true. So for me, like I always say, I love to pay respect to those that are entrepreneurs by heart, by saying that I'm the fake one, because I did learn by growing up in corporate. So my mindset was always like, it takes a team. And because I have worked in so many different capacities, I understood how to build the team, right? So for me, even building different teams, like, okay, if I want to serve more than one person at a time in terms of a contract, or if I know that I need different skill sets, then being able to bring in other small business owners and or people on a contract type basis is how we started. But as we continue to grow, the challenge is always still, as a CEO and founder of a business, you are the face. And so people are buying based off of your experience. And so being able to transition part of that has still remained a challenge sometimes. I started leaning into more strategic partnerships that just came to me like somewhere toward one quarter last year. I couldn't tell you which one it was, but I was like, you know what? Maybe instead of trying to build a dedicated person, maybe lean more into strategic partnerships. But It does remain a challenge. I always tell people, even if you're starting out as a solopreneur, still build an org chart. What type of support do you need, right? So maybe your vision is not to have such a large business to begin with, but you are the solopreneur. And so where do you need to focus your time? Do we need a part-time, admin that helps? Do we need to partner with a marketing agency to have them do certain parts? Because we can't be all things in a business. And so it's really understanding who's payroll and who is contract and who is subcontract out, right?
That's a good point to think about because, a lot of business owners don't have those thoughts and they think they can handle it all, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like a lot of them kind of start to fail.
I agree.
So would you say key collaborations, how has that helped the growth of your business, collaborating with partners?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say partnership is the new growth model. And so that has been the single way that my business has continued to grow, right? It's always a partnership. Even in taking some of my first contracts was a partnership. What helped my business survive its first year and exceed almost triple of what I did in corporate was partnering with another company. And so that helped me gain the capital that I needed to build my internal team. And then I started saying, hey, if I'm going to be serving here, then how do I get an admin to handle there, right? And then again, one of those things where it's like, well, I'll just touch on marketing, right? It's like, who's going to do my marketing? Who's going to, build this, right? And so being able to kind of then start shelling out some of those other roles.
Yeah, it seems like you really love kind of coaching and training people who are interested in growing. So do you have like an intern program you use to kind of bring people on and really vet who they are? Because it kind of is personality, but also education based.
So for people that I hire or business owners that I work with?
I would say people you hire because you have to have a strong staff around you. And it feels like you really look for certain things in people. Maybe you weren't even looking for them, but they kind of arise. So what do you do with your business right now to help grow that?
Well, one thing I learned last year was I need to not be that person anymore. I just want to be honest, like fail fast, right? That is the thing in business is fail fast. And when I say that is that you can start out very clear on understanding like, hey, I need to hire a project manager. I'm never going to miss on what type of project manager I need because I understand the types of skill sets and the type of growth that they're looking for. I'm not going to miss out on the type of consultant that I need. But when we start getting into other roles, sometimes I learned that being too close to something or not as experienced in certain things, I always say you need to know just enough to be dangerous, but knowing enough doesn't make you the expert. And so what I did was I actually came across a client, which in serving this particular client in his business, it actually made me think, you know what, you need to partner with a recruiting firm. And you need to not be in the middle of the hiring process for certain roles. And the reason why is because in corporate, I was absolutely a great leader. I still am.
Yes.
But I was always clear when someone needed to be fired. It's like, hey, I gave you the tools, the resources. We've got every single thing laid out, whatever. But when it came to owning a business and you're in the startup phase, there's something psychologically that makes you feel like you're at the mercy of the people that says, pick me, when all I owe you is the paycheck, right? But sometimes I don't know what it is, but I know that it exists. We start questioning ourselves. And so I said, you know what? I wouldn't question myself if I knew I wasn't the sole owner of this decision. Because now I'm looking at failure. I'm looking at now I'm going to have to go and rehire, all these different things. And when I started stepping out of the process and saying, you know what, I'm going to hire an expert in recruiting, tell them what I'm looking for, and get a team. I built a team. I have a team of 30 CEOs that we meet in CEO roundtables. So I started soliciting some of them that do the same type of work that I do to help me vet people that I wanted on my team. And then they can give me the most, candidates or the best candidate for that role and let me select from it. It has helped me so much more, focus more on what the job needs to be, what they need to be coached to, and less guilty about should I be firing them if they're not performing?
That takes a lot of emotional, thought and exhaustion to go through that process and time away from what you really need to be focusing on.
Very true.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Having a recruiter or someone like that vet the people that you want if they do it right.
That's true. I underestimated the sensitivity that the area would bring about, right? Because I never was 100% a business owner. Maybe on the side, but not 100%. And you're like, this is my livelihood. I have to, keep this going. And you start carrying a different type of guilt. Like, did I not see this? Did I hire the wrong person? I'm just like, that's, how do I fix that? Which, we're always growing ourselves, right? And so I thought that was healthy, and it does matter who you partner with. I mean, they have to be good at what they do and not just any recruiter. He so happened to be my client. And
that's great.
I was very clear on how he did things, and I liked it. So
yeah, and I'm sure you vetted him to be sure that your focus is aligned, right?
Yes.
that is important. So on to the next. You mentioned the different phases you're in business. So we kind of work off of a build, launch, grow, scale. Yeah. What phase would you say you're in right now?
Yeah, so I felt like I was in between two.
And sometimes we are, right?
We are, because always between the grow and the scale, right? And so for us, I think it's a combination of both. I don't think I know, right? So we're constantly growing, but then it gets to the point of how do we scale, right? I think that 2024 stats was very eye-opening in a lot of areas where I'm like, okay, this is where our time is going. The 12 months really go by. And a lot of things happen. We are only 14 days into the year, and a lot has already
I feel like it's been 3 months already. Yes.
And so when you step back and you look at your year, which I'm such a huge proponent for, just where are we? What do we want to stop, start, continue? What did we do well? What can we do better? And in looking at some of those things, it's like, you know what? It's an opportunity to kind of start refining how we do things, and then looking at how do we scale it, right? And then also when I think of scale, I look at it from two different ways. Like, not only so much how can it operate on its own, but because I am CEO, business development, and all these things in one, it's like, how can you transition some of these things off to bring in trained team members to handle it? Right. And if those team members do not exist yet, how are you building and scaling so that you can, bring that training in without it being as much disruption?
Absolutely. So you kind of, you focus on those things in your own business, but you also it seems like you guide your clients in the same methodology.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. And have you received all responses from that methodology? And obviously, if you're still growing and scaling, you're doing a great job.
It's true. I meet a lot of my clients I don't know. I meet them in all phases, right? But a lot of our startups tend to be in the build phase. But a lot of the other clients are somewhere they're growing. Or they're needing to scale. So it's always like we have a revamp of a mess that's going on. And I actually love mess. Like, just
the chaos coordinator.
Absolutely. I'm like, you know what? The more problems, the better, because it's like I just kind of wave my magic wand, because Tye ties it together. Like that, no pun intended. But
I love that tagline. That's going to be the title of this. Tye ties it together. I love that.
Yes.
So what would you say, how are you strategically planning to move to the next level or the next scale phase of your business right now?
There's so many things, right? So how am I planning? So a few things is that how do I want to phrase this?
It's okay to think
looking at the biggest demand that we had last year, we're looking through how to solve it. And when I say how to solve it, I think it's a huge program management perspective that can come in there for the type of clients that we need to serve. And so building out, what does that look like? And am I the person to build it?
Right.
I think in order to scale that piece, I myself have to step back and hire the right person in that role that can say, hey, these are all of the, in this particular bucket, all of the things that we had, and this is how we would build it. So I think for me, that's one aspect. The other easy part,
what you would say is easy.
Like the easy part is like, how do you serve the existing businesses that are already standing, right? So you have the businesses that are in the build phase, right? And they require a great demand of things, right? And there's quite a few elements there that we're focusing on. How do we build the right thing for them, right? Because it's not possible to believe that we can continuously serve them as one-offs.
Right.
That's insane. There's not enough hours in the day, not enough revenue in that bucket. So that, to me, is like our problem child there. But the easy part, from for me has been, how do we serve the existing businesses that come in that need certain things? And that is more of, as we grow, how do we scale? And just, we did a lot of realignment in the team, and also looking at what additional positions we could fill, because we have a pretty good process with how we onboard our clients, understanding who is an expert in which area to be able to help these businesses. Because when you focus on something like operational excellence and really helping the business that's already established really run better, you come across different industries. And so you can't be an expert in all industries.
Right.
So just being able to kind of segment the team that way has really helped. And then also kind of deciding what we will take on and what we won't take on, because we don't have to say yes to everything. I think going into year 3, we have understood we don't have to say yes to everything, and a better process for us helps us serve our clients even better. And it's the same thing we teach them, so.
It is. And to step back and look at yourself and be like, am I following this process that I'm guiding others on?
Mirror moments.
Absolutely. So which of the 5 steps of the customer journey would you say has been the most impactful step for driving client satisfaction and growth?
So the 5 steps of the customer journey.
It's kind of what you just mentioned, like walking through them through each step of the way, kind of building what they have, giving them that satisfaction of delivering it, and then making sure that it's working appropriately so you can scale.
So do you mean from my particular business? How am I doing that, or how do we do it for our clients?
Both, honestly.
I was going to say, because we kind of went back to top of the funnel on our problem child, right? Which is like the awareness, right? Because sometimes when we talk about awareness, right, and it's just the whole, how do we even know if we're the right people, to help them? Sometimes you can't say yes to everything, right? And that's refining who we are, what we do, and how we serve, right? And so in doing that part, I think for us internally, it's like we've got to refine that part a little bit better when it comes to our smaller business segment. When it comes to our corporate segment, it's a little bit different. But with our clients, I'll take an example. Sometimes clients come to us and they're trying to launch a new product or something, or a team, who knows, right? But really kind of taking them through the phases of, who are we serving? What are we doing? Who are we trying to attract? How are we going to build this? And then how does the operational piece work, which is what I love, right? Because everyone's like, great, we spend so much time here on building that. But then how does it work? Like, what holds it together, right? So that we can truly know how to work through that phase. I'm trying to think of what else.
So you're kind of describing reinventing the business. It seems like you walk into every new client thinking, okay, how can we reinvent what you have and make it work for you? Is that kind of the same path?
We can use that, because a lot of them think that things are broken or all is lost, right? I just had a client that his company's been around 15 years.
Okay.
And so, I'm thinking, he's asking me how to deal with this new company that he's building. And he's kind of like, we've been here 15 years, but I don't think that we're operating like the way that we should, right? And so even in just kind of walking him through that, we actually discovered quite a few things. So while we were solving one challenge in the business, we kind of understood a lot of opportunities for other things. So for him, it's like, you're structured wrong, right? Or I wouldn't say structured wrong. We can be structured better, because we've grown after 15 years. There's a lot of different things that's in there. What are the types of tools and technology and processes? So it also got to a point where people always realize when they're losing money. But then they're like, we need to be selling this, or we should be doing that. And that's not the case for this business that's been in business for 15 years. Right. What was happening was that the way in which he services accounts and his clients, their internal processes, was not in place, where they were missing and not responding to a lot of clients in timely manners, or not seeing what it was that they needed, because they absolutely had no process. It can come through one person's email, another person's email. Maybe they're using the info one and it's not routed to these other people.
No
half
consistency.
Of them, correct. Like half are using the website, some are not using the website to order things. And so they're losing out on existing business that they have already. And so that was one way that we fixed, like, how do we streamline the process for serving your existing clients so that they remain clients? Because I always say, if we keep looking at, we need clients, we need money, we put that much focus there. It's like putting money in a bag with a hole in the bottom, right? Because if your internal processes are not good, then your retention will be terrible. And we will always be at the top of the funnel looking for clients again. So that was one of the things that we helped solve for him. And then the other thing is, what type of technology do we need? And when I say that, I'm not just talking about your internal processes. So for him and the type of business that he had, is there a way that we can exercise an AI component to really help with your marketing efforts, that when they're reaching out to their clients, it's not, we're not marketing, but when you're reaching out to them, he's saying, hey, this is the process. Once they become interested and they respond back, then now I'm searching through my team and who's going to handle what and have accountability to be able to provide a quote back. And the type of business that they had, there's AI tools and components that you can send your client all that information up front. And then start tracking a different type of way, right? And so we're still in the process of putting that in place, but such a time saver. And we're not looking for bodies to do this. It can take one person to do this at that point in time, and then who oversees that. So I think a lot of times clients, they focus on their missing clients or they're missing money, but sometimes their operational structure and the type of technology that they should have in place is non-existent. We can't manage our teams efficiently or effectively or get our clients what they need if we don't have processes, tools, and technology in place to be able to do it. I always say it's a people, process, or technology thing, right? And so for him, it was all of them.
And sometimes when you're a business owner and you have that umbrella view, you really bring a focus on the business to rebuild the structure. It's almost like the framework for a house. You've got to make sure your base is stable and structured correctly, or it's all going to fall down in the end, right?
I love that analogy.
And you taking the time to educate yourself and your team constantly on what tools to use is taking a ton of time and effort out of their day-to-day task, I'm sure. So what would you say on that point? What technologies and platforms do you use right now to market who you are and really show your clients or prospects what you have to offer them?
So for me, we are still in one of those strategic partnership phases, right? So a lot of times, anytime I'm speaking somewhere at a conference and people are like, hey, how do you help us do that, right? And so that's the first thing, right? And so the second thing is that LinkedIn outreach has been like the best option for us, which I would have never thought, right? Because that was just not my world, right? But that was where a majority of our prospects came from, unless it was a direct RFP or something. Then, like I said, the other biggest one that is now kind of overshadowing a lot of things is the strategic partnerships. People are just kind of like, hey, I work with this person and they do this and they have a team, right?
Right.
So I think that's been the biggest thing for us. I do see a lot of area of opportunity for people. When we talk about awareness, I am very sure that everything starts with a search.
Absolutely.
Even as a leader, if I want to be a better leader and I don't want to tell my leader that I'm failing at something, I'm going to start by searching, right? And so I always say never underestimate the power of blogs. I'm always shocked when we get website bookings that I'm just like, how did you find that, right? Because we don't put a lot of emphasis there.
Right.
So I do think that for us moving forward in 2025, there is opportunity for a lot of things. I think what has sustained us in starting has been the partnerships and then also speaking engagements as well as LinkedIn outreach methods has worked for us.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, what advice or tips would you give other business owners, whether they're starting out, whether they're scaling and moving to the next phase? What advice would you give them?
I would say what I say all the time is you can have it all, but you cannot do it all. So first, understanding that you need a team and a structure. And what does that look like for your business? Even if you chose to run it solo by yourself, how do you create the most efficient processes and leverage technology? Whether that's project management tools, automations, social media tools to be able to post on multiple platforms at one time,
Absolutely.
right? There's a lot of things that we should be doing that I think that people take them as single task where there are ways to automate it. Also, advice I would give to new business owners is that, people do not expect you to be 24 hours. And so create business hours from the beginning because you need that time,
Right.
even to prepare working on client proposals after hours. If we're always saying that we're available 24 hours when we're not seen as a real business, and two, it just really takes away your time and focus to be able to do things. To seasoned business owners, some of them may know what a consultant is and some of them may not, right? Mm-hmm. But I always say if there's a pain point in your organization or I wish we could do X, start searching for a consultant.
Yeah.
It's not a business coach or someone that you need to do that. It's a consultant, right? Mm. And when you vet your consultants, look for someone who has done the work, before that can walk you through it. I've had more people that in a 10-minute conversation of discussing their challenge was very clear that you and your team are the ones that can help me with it, right? And so sometimes if you're not sure what to ask or how to tell, when they're able to tell you and walk you through it and bring that clarity to what it is that you're going through, that's who you should hire. And you'll save more, you'll start earning more faster by doing that. So that's my advice that I would have on both ends. But at the end of the day, hire some help.
Absolutely. And help that is vetted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Don't just go by reviews.
Right.
People can pay for them. Mm. Get on the phone and talk to them. Give them the questions like, hey, this is a challenge that I'm dealing with, and see what advice that they give you. You will know if it's resonating with you, if they're able to do it. And if someone's not willing to do that, they're probably not the person that you should hire. And I say that as a consumer and as the business owner that offers those solutions. If someone cannot tell me, pre-vet me and tell me what it is that I need, where I think to myself, why didn't I call you yesterday? They're probably not the person for me, regardless to what the Google reviews say.
Absolutely. And I would definitely say we do that in this business all the time. Where are you? And if they don't know, we should know.
Yeah.
And where they need to go. So for our listeners who want to connect with you or learn what you do or maybe have a meeting, I know you your first consultations are...
We always offer free 30-minute consultations.
Oh, okay.
And so they can always find us on Instagram. It's at WTV Consulting, so Whiskey Tango Victor Consulting. And actually, that's across all platforms. So it's for X, it's for Instagram, it's for Facebook, and for LinkedIn. Okay. So the same thing on LinkedIn. Visit our company page. Connect with me personally on LinkedIn as well, too. Tye Threats. And I would love to absolutely hear more about what it is that you're doing, what visions that you have for your company, what challenges you think has kind of tangled you up a bit, and see if there's a way that we're able to help.
Right. And from my own experience, Tye, even if you aren't able to help and you recognize that, you're a great connector. Tye can connect you with the people you need to know.
I will never tell you that I'm the person that can do something. I'm like, you know what? It sounds like you need, and that's why I say always know just enough to be dangerous. I live very heavily in the operational space. And from an operations lens, we look at the business as a whole. So I don't care where it falls. I don't care if it's marketing. I don't care if it's branding. I don't care if it's your operations. It really doesn't matter what it is. I will see that and I'll say, hey, you probably need to hire this type of person. And I love when I know them because then I can refer them. But sometimes if I don't, I'll be able to give you some tips on, hey, just go and consider this, or, this is how you find that. But I will always either know someone to connect you to or know what that thing is that you need to be connected to.
Well, you're amazing, Tye. Thank you so much for all the tips and insight. I know I learned a lot today, and I hope everyone else out there did. So we'll see you again.
Thanks again.
And for all of our listeners out there, I'm your host, Story, and we'll see you next time on Market It with Atma.